"Officer, in 5 minutes, this road is going to look very different." Colonel Marcus Reed said it without raising his voice, standing beside a black patrol cruiser on a lonely stretch of Route 17, one wrist secured in a handcuff while the other rested calmly at his side. Morning fog hung over the Virginia pines, turning the highway into a pale ribbon that vanished less than half a mile ahead. Red and blue lights flashed across the polished chrome of his Harley-Davidson, but Marcus never looked away from Officer Daniel Mercer. Mercer was broad-shouldered, red-faced, and wearing the satisfied expression of a man who believed the badge on his chest had already settled every question. He held Marcus's military radio in one hand and studied it like stolen property. 5 minutes. Mercer repeated with a humorless smile. In 5 minutes, you'll be explaining this equipment from a holding room. Marcus glanced at the steel watch on his wrist. 4 minutes and 42 seconds. He had spent 26 years learning how to remain still when everyone around him wanted a reaction. Desert heat had taught him patience. Night missions had taught him silence. Command had taught him that the loudest person in the room was rarely the one with the most power. Yet none of that training could erase the familiar weight of being judged before being heard. Mercer had seen a black man in a worn leather jacket riding a powerful motorcycle through a quiet town, and somewhere between the gas station and this empty road, suspicion had hardened into certainty. Marcus had shown his driver's license. Mercer questioned it. He had presented his military identification. Mercer barely read it. He had explained that he was traveling ahead of an authorized federal convoy. Mercer laughed. Now the identification card lay face down near the edge of the pavement, dampened by the morning mist, while the radio in Mercer's hand gave a soft burst of static. A younger officer named Tyler Hayes stood several feet away, watching the exchange with growing discomfort. His eyes moved from Marcus to the paperwork on the hood of the cruiser, then back to Mercer. "Sir," Tyler said carefully, "the route authorization has a Department of Defense seal." Mercer did not look at him. "People print seals every day." The radio crackled again. This time, a voice pushed through the static, calm and professional. "Raven 1, convoy actual. 4 minutes out. Confirm route status." Mercer pressed the side button without understanding the channel. "This route is closed," he said. Silence followed. Marcus looked toward the fog-covered bend in the highway. "You may want to reconsider those words." Mercer stepped closer, convinced the quiet man before him was bluffing. "You don't give instructions here." Marcus's expression did not change. "No, officer. I'm giving you an opportunity." Far beyond the trees, something low and steady rolled through the ground, too deep to be thunder and too rhythmic to be construction. Tyler felt it first beneath his boots. Then the cruiser mirrors began to tremble. Mercer turned toward the bend as a flock of birds rose suddenly from the pines. Marcus checked his watch once more. 3 minutes and 56 seconds remained. 17 minutes earlier, Marcus Reed had left the gates of Fort Belvoir beneath a sky the color of brushed steel. The air carried the cool bite of early morning, and a thin layer of mist rested over the road as he guided the Harley-Davidson south toward Route 17. The motorcycle was older than most of the vehicles parked at the command center, but Marcus kept every piece of chrome polished and every mechanical part tuned with the same care he once gave his field equipment. It had belonged to his younger brother, Ethan, who used to say that a motorcycle revealed a man more honestly than any uniform ever could. Ethan had been gone for 11 years, but Marcus still heard his laughter whenever the engine settled into its steady rhythm. Tucked inside the left pocket of Marcus's leather jacket was a faded photograph of the two brothers standing beside that same motorcycle. They were younger then, both in uniform, both smiling as though the future had promised them unlimited time. Marcus had learned differently. Time was never unlimited. Promises were not either. That morning, he was keeping one of the last promises he had made. To Ethan, ride the motorcycle whenever the road mattered. And this road mattered. 50 Hums waited 3 miles behind him, carrying food, bottled water, portable generators, medical supplies, and nearly 200 National Guard personnel toward 3 Virginia communities cut off by severe flooding. Marcus had volunteered to scout the final section himself because a bridge inspection had forced the convoy onto an unfamiliar local route. The mission was simple. Confirm the road was clear, report any hazards, and guide the vehicles through Ashford before traffic increased. He had completed far more dangerous assignments, but he treated every responsibility with equal seriousness. People were waiting for medicine. Families had spent 2 nights without power. A rural clinic had less than 1 day of fuel remaining for its backup generator. No one in those towns cared about rank. They cared whether help arrived. Marcus checked his mirror and saw only fog behind him. The convoy was maintaining its scheduled distance. His radio rested securely against his jacket, and the route map was folded inside the motorcycle's side case. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned until he stopped at a gas station near the Ashford town line. He did not need fuel. He needed 30 seconds to verify a construction sign that pointed traffic toward a county road not listed on his map. As he stood beside the motorcycle, comparing the sign with his written orders, a patrol cruiser rolled slowly past the station. Officer Daniel Mercer looked through the window and fixed his attention on Marcus. It was not a passing glance. It lingered on the leather jacket, the military radio, the black motorcycle, and finally Marcus's face. Marcus recognized that look. It was the look of a conclusion searching for evidence. From the passenger seat, Tyler Hayes glanced back toward the station. Did he do something? Tyler asked. Mercer watched Marcus fold the map and place it inside the side case. Not yet, he answered. Then he turned the cruiser around. Mercer guided the patrol cruiser out of the gas station and settled 20 yards behind the Harley-Davidson. Marcus noticed the cruiser in his mirror almost immediately, but he did not change his speed. The limit was 45 miles per hour, and his speedometer held steady at 43. He signaled before leaving the station, kept both wheels centered in the lane, and gave every intersection more caution than necessary. Experience had taught him that perfect behavior did not always protect a black man from suspicion, but it could preserve the truth when suspicion became an accusation. Behind him, Mercer leaned forward over the steering wheel, studying every movement as though patience itself were evidence of guilt. Tyler sat beside him with the route authorization number still visible on the mobile computer between them. He entered the motorcycle plate and waited for the system to respond. The registration returned clean. The motorcycle belonged to Marcus Elijah Reed. The license was valid. There were no warrants, no alerts, and no stolen vehicle report. Tyler read the screen twice. Everything is clear, he said. Mercer kept his eyes on the road. A clean plate does not mean a clean rider. Tyler looked toward him. He was checking a map. He was watching us. He looked up when we drove past. Mercer gave a quiet laugh, the kind that ended a conversation without answering it. Ahead, Marcus passed a church with a white steeple, a feed store that had not yet opened, and 3 small houses set far back from the highway. The fog was beginning to lift, revealing long stretches of wet pavement and dark pine trees. His radio gave a brief tone, indicating that Major Elena Torres had sent an updated convoy position. He did not answer while riding. The scheduled check-in was still several minutes away, and the road remained clear. Yet the cruiser stayed behind him. It matched every turn. It slowed when he slowed. It moved closer when the highway narrowed. Imagine feeling another person's judgment following you mile after mile, not because of something you had done, but because your presence had disturbed a story they had already written about you. Marcus knew that feeling too well. He had experienced it in stores, parking lots, hotel lobbies, and even outside military ceremonies while wearing formal dress. Rank could command a room once it was recognized. Skin color often entered the room first. Mercer saw a black biker in an old leather jacket with a radio clipped near his shoulder. He did not see a colonel. He did not see a widowed father who called his daughter every Sunday. He did not see the man responsible for delivering emergency supplies to families he had never met. He saw a category, and the category became a verdict. Tyler watched the speedometer. He is not speeding. Mercer reached toward the dashboard controls. People like that always give you a reason eventually. Marcus saw the patrol lights ignite in his mirror, red and blue spreading across the fog behind him. He released the throttle, activated his signal, and searched for a safe shoulder wide enough for both vehicles. He already knew the next few minutes would not be about traffic law. They would be about whether one officer could recognize the difference between instinct and prejudice before the road filled with witnesses. Marcus eased the Harley-Davidson onto the gravel shoulder and turned off the engine. The sudden quiet felt unnatural after miles of steady motion. He placed both hands on the handlebars where they could be clearly seen and waited while the patrol cruiser stopped 15 feet behind him. Red and blue light washed over the fog, the motorcycle, and the wet branches along the roadside. Mercer remained inside for several seconds, watching Marcus through the windshield as though still deciding what kind of man he wanted him to be. Tyler looked once more at the clean registration on the mobile computer. "There is no violation listed," he said. Mercer opened his door. "Then I will ask him a few questions." Marcus heard the door close and the measured steps approaching from behind. He kept his hands still. "Good morning, officer," he said. Mercer stopped beside the motorcycle, one hand resting near his equipment belt. "License and registration." "Certainly. They are in my inside jacket pocket." "May I reach for them?" Mercer studied him before giving a short nod. Marcus moved slowly, removed his wallet, and handed over his Virginia license. Then he opened the side case and produced the motorcycle registration. Mercer compared the name on both documents. "Marcus Reed," he read aloud. "Where are you headed?" "I am conducting a route inspection." "For whom?" "The Virginia National Guard." Mercer looked at the radio attached to Marcus's jacket. "You expect me to believe that?" Marcus kept his voice level. "My military identification and written orders will confirm it." Tyler had stepped out of the cruiser and was standing several feet behind Mercer. He watched Marcus carefully, but without the hostility in Mercer's eyes. "Why did you stop at the gas station?" Mercer asked. "To verify a construction detour before a convoy reaches this section." "What convoy?" "Emergency relief vehicles carrying supplies to flooded communities south of Ashford." Mercer glanced at the empty highway behind them. "I do not see any convoy." "They are maintaining distance until I clear the route." The answer was simple, precise, and completely reasonable, but Mercer appeared irritated by Marcus's composure. He walked around the motorcycle, looking at the side cases, the radio, and the folded map visible beneath the clear cover of a navigation pouch. "This motorcycle resembles one reported stolen last month." Tyler shifted his weight. The plate returned to him. Mercer ignored the comment. "You were also riding close to the center line." "I remained inside my lane." "That is not how it looked from behind." Marcus understood what was happening. The reason for the stop was changing because the first reason had never existed. Each answer created another accusation. Each piece of proof became another object of suspicion. Mercer held out his hand. "Give me the radio." "That is government equipment assigned to an active mission." "Then you should have no problem handing it over." Marcus looked directly at him. "Officer, you may inspect my credentials, but interfering with that radio could delay emergency assistance." Mercer stepped closer. "Are you refusing a lawful instruction?" The fog moved silently across the road as Marcus reached inside his jacket and removed his military identification. He handed it over with the patience of a man offering truth to someone determined not to recognize it. Mercer looked at the photograph, then at Marcus. "Anyone can make one of these." Tyler leaned forward. "The identification number matches the route authorization." Mercer's jaw tightened. He released the card. It landed near the edge of the pavement, face down in the damp gravel. Marcus watched it fall. Then he looked at his watch. 8 minutes remained before the convoy reached the turn. Marcus looked at the identification card lying in the damp gravel, then slowly lifted his eyes to Mercer. For one brief second, the morning seemed to hold its breath. The fog drifted across Route 17. Water gathered along the edge of the pavement. Somewhere beyond the trees, the convoy continued forward according to schedule. "That card tells you who I am," Marcus said quietly. "What you do next will tell everyone who you are." Mercer gave a dismissive smile, but Tyler did not. The younger officer stared at the card, at the official seal, and at the name printed beneath the photograph. Colonel Marcus Elijah Reed. He had already seen the same name on the route authorization inside the patrol cruiser. He had also seen the convoy identification number, the emergency declaration, and the list of communities waiting for supplies. Nothing about the document appeared false. "Daniel," Tyler said, lowering his voice, "we should verify this with dispatch." Mercer turned sharply. "Officer Hayes, you will address me by rank while we are working." "Then, Sergeant Mercer, I recommend that we verify his credentials." The correction hung between them. Mercer was accustomed to hesitation, not resistance. He looked back at Marcus as though the discomfort Tyler had caused belonged to the man beside the motorcycle. "Open the side cases," Mercer ordered. Marcus remained still. "Those cases contain route documents and mission equipment." "Open them." "Please state the legal reason for the search." Mercer stepped closer to the Harley-Davidson. "Your behavior is suspicious." "I answered every question. I provided valid identification. I explained the mission." "You keep telling me what you provided." "Because you keep refusing to read it." Tyler's eyes widened. Slightly. Marcus had not raised his voice, but the truth in the sentence landed with more force than shouting could have carried. Mercer glanced toward the empty road, perhaps expecting an audience, perhaps relieved that there was none. "Place your hands where I can see them." Marcus lifted both hands slowly. "They have been visible since you approached." Mercer reached for the radio clipped to Marcus's jacket. Marcus did not resist, but his expression changed. The calm remained. Something colder joined it. "That radio is connected to an active emergency channel," he warned. "Taking it could interrupt a federal relief operation." Mercer removed the device and turned it over in his hand. "Or it could be connected to people helping you pretend this story is real." Tyler moved nearer. "The channel marking is military. Stay out of this." The radio crackled before either officer could say more. A woman's voice came through, clear despite the static. "Raven 1, this is Convoy Actual. We have passed checkpoint 3 and are 7 minutes from your position. Confirm route status." Mercer stared at the device. Marcus checked his watch. 7 minutes and 12 seconds remained. "Answer them," Tyler said. Mercer pressed the transmission button. "This route is temporarily closed pending a police investigation." A pause followed. Then the same voice returned, firmer now. "Identify yourself and state the status of Colonel Reed." Mercer's confidence flickered, but only for a moment. "Colonel Reed is being detained while we verify his identity." The radio went silent. Marcus looked toward the bend hidden by fog. "You just verified it for them." For the first time since the stop began, Mercer looked uncertain. It lasted less than a second, but Tyler saw it. So did Marcus. The radio in Mercer's hand had changed the atmosphere on the roadside. Until that moment, Mercer had been speaking into silence, filling the empty highway with his own version of events. Now someone else was listening. Someone who knew Marcus by rank. Someone who expected him to be in command. Mercer stared at the radio, then lowered it as though the device itself had become inconvenient. "Anyone can use military language," he said. Tyler looked at him. "Dispatch can confirm the unit." "I said I am handling it." Marcus checked his watch again. 6 minutes and 40 seconds. He had coordinated enough convoys to understand exactly what was happening beyond the fog. Major Elena Torres would already be slowing the lead vehicles. Drivers would be tightening formation. Communications personnel would be recording the blocked route and the unexpected delay. Every minute Mercer spent protecting his assumption was becoming part of an official record. "Sergeant," Marcus said, "you still have time to verify my identity and clear the road." Mercer's jaw tightened. "You are in no position to tell me what I have time to do. I am telling you what the families south of Ashford do not have time for." Marcus spoke of the clinic waiting for generator fuel, the shelters running low on bottled water, and the neighborhoods cut off by flood damage. He did not dramatize the need. He did not invoke his rank. He simply placed the consequences in front of Mercer and allowed him to choose whether pride mattered more than people. Tyler stepped toward the cruiser. "I am calling dispatch." Mercer turned. "You will stay here. We have an active relief convoy approaching. We have a suspicious individual claiming to command it. His name, identification number, and route order all match." The words came faster now, not from anger, but from the strain of watching procedure be ignored. Mercer glanced toward the dashboard camera. A small red light showed that it had been recording since the patrol lights came on. That light should have encouraged caution. Instead, it seemed to make him more determined to prove that his first decision had been right. "Turn around," he told Marcus. Marcus did not move immediately. "For what purpose?" "You are being temporarily detained while your identity is verified. You have had the means to verify it from the beginning." Mercer reached for the handcuffs on his belt. Tyler took one step forward. "Sergeant, this is unnecessary." Mercer ignored him. Marcus turned slowly and placed his hands behind his back. He knew resistance would become the only detail. Mercer remembered. The metal closed around one wrist, then the other, not violently, but with a final sound that carried through the quiet morning. Click! A conclusion made physical. Mercer guided Marcus beside the cruiser and placed the confiscated radio on the hood. "Now we wait for dispatch," he said. Marcus looked at the radio. 5 minutes and 3 seconds. Right on schedule, it crackled again. "Raven 1, convoy actual. We are 5 minutes out. Colonel Reed, confirm you are safe." Mercer reached over and switched it off. Tyler stared at him in disbelief. Marcus said nothing. He no longer needed to. From somewhere beyond the tree line came a low vibration, faint at first, then steady enough to disturb the surface of a rain puddle beside the road. The water trembled in small circles. Birds lifted from the pines. Tyler turned toward the fog. Mercer kept his eyes on Marcus. "What did you set up?" he asked. Marcus looked past him toward the hidden bend. "I did not set up anything, Sergeant." "You stopped it." The sound reached them before the vehicles did. It moved through the pavement like distant thunder, deep and measured, growing stronger with every passing second. Tyler stepped toward the center of the shoulder, staring into the fog as the trees began to shake loose drops of water. Mercer followed his gaze, still holding himself upright, still trying to wear certainty like armor. "What is coming?" he asked. Marcus stood beside the cruiser with his hands secured behind him, his expression calm. "The people you were told about." A pair of headlights appeared through the mist. Then another pair. Then 4 more. The first Humvee emerged around the bend at a controlled speed, its dark frame filling the lane. A second vehicle followed at an exact distance. Then a third. A fourth. The line did not stop. Heavy tires rolled over the wet highway in disciplined formation while engines filled the morning with a steady mechanical roar. Mercer moved closer to his cruiser as though the familiar vehicle might restore the authority slipping away from him. Tyler counted under his breath until the number became too large to follow. 10 hums passed into view. Then 20. Then 30. The formation stretched beyond the curve, each vehicle carrying personnel, relief equipment, fuel containers, and supplies marked for emergency distribution. There were no sirens. No dramatic gestures. No one left formation without instruction. The convoy did not arrive like a threat. It arrived like proof. The lead Humvee slowed and stopped roughly 50 feet from the patrol cruiser. Every vehicle behind it came to a coordinated halt. Doors remained closed for several seconds. The engines continued running. The road seemed to vibrate beneath them. Then the driver's door of the lead vehicle opened, and Major Elena Torres stepped down onto the pavement. She wore a field uniform and carried herself with the focused restraint of someone accustomed to command. Her eyes moved first to the Harley-Davidson, then to the military identification lying in the gravel, and finally to Marcus standing in handcuffs. Her expression tightened, but her voice remained controlled. "Sergeant, step away from Colonel Reed." Mercer looked at her uniform, then at the endless line behind her. "We are conducting an investigation." Torres approached without hurry. "You were informed that this road was supporting an authorized emergency convoy." His identity was not confirmed. Tyler spoke before Mercer could continue. "It was confirmed, Major. The documents matched. The route order matched. The radio channel matched." Mercer turned toward him. "Officer Hayes." Tyler did not look away. The information was clear. Torres stopped in front of Marcus and raised her hand in a formal salute. "Colonel Reed, 50 vehicles and 196 personnel are standing by for your command, sir." Mercer's face lost its color. Marcus returned the salute as well as the restraints allowed. He did not smile. He did not celebrate. He looked at the families waiting beyond Ashford, the supplies held in place, and the minutes already lost. "Major Torres," he said, "make sure every active camera continues recording." Torres lowered her hand. "Yes, sir." Marcus turned his eyes toward Mercer. "Then contact dispatch and request a supervisor. We will handle this correctly." In that moment, the 50 hums revealed his rank, but his next decision revealed something greater. He had the power to humiliate the man who had humiliated him, and he chose accountability instead. The convoy remained silent behind Marcus, 50 engines idling in the mist while every camera continued to record. Mercer stood beside the patrol cruiser with the radio still on the hood, his confidence draining under the weight of witnesses he could no longer ignore. Tyler moved carefully toward Marcus and removed the handcuffs after Major Torres confirmed the authorization through military dispatch. The metal opened with a quiet click. Marcus rubbed his wrists once, then reached down and picked up his identification card from the gravel. Mud covered part of the seal. He wiped it clean with the edge of his jacket and placed it inside his wallet without a word. 15 minutes later, Sheriff Alan Whitmore arrived in a black sport utility vehicle, followed by 2 county supervisors. Whitmore stepped out wearing the practiced concern of a man who had spent years turning serious complaints into harmless misunderstandings. He looked first at the convoy, then at Marcus, and finally at Mercer. "Colonel Reed," he said, forcing warmth into his voice, "I am sure we can resolve this quickly." Sergeant Mercer was acting out of caution. Marcus studied him. "Caution follows evidence. This began before evidence existed." Whitmore lowered his voice. "The relief mission is important. Let us not delay it over a roadside misunderstanding." Major Torres looked toward the long line of vehicles. "The mission has already been delayed." Tyler stood near the cruiser, pale but steady. He had spent the last several minutes reviewing the patrol computer, the dashboard recording, and the dispatch history. What he found disturbed him more than the stop itself. Mercer had entered no valid traffic violation. He had requested no stolen motorcycle confirmation before activating the patrol lights. He had ignored the clean registration return. Worse, the internal system showed previous complaints tied to similar stops involving black drivers, each one closed with nearly identical language. Insufficient evidence. Officer discretion. No policy violation. Tyler turned the computer screen toward Whitmore. "Sheriff, this is not the first time." Mercer stared at him. "Think carefully about what you are saying." Tyler did. For most of his first year in uniform, he had confused loyalty with silence. He had watched Mercer speak harshly to drivers, stretch ordinary questions into searches, and describe suspicion as instinct. Each time, Tyler had told himself that experience must know more than discomfort. Now he understood that silence did not keep the peace. It protected the person breaking it. There are 7 prior complaints, Tyler said. All involving drivers stopped without documented cause. 5 were black. 2 dashboard files were marked unavailable, but backup copies still exist on the county server. Whitmore's expression changed. Not much. Just enough. Marcus noticed. You knew about them, he said. Whitmore looked away from the screen. Complaints do not equal guilt. No, Marcus replied. But a pattern demands investigation. Mercer stepped forward, desperate to regain control. This officer is misreading internal records. Tyler reached into his uniform pocket and removed a small storage device. I copied the dispatch logs before the system could update them. The road fell quiet again. Even the engine seemed distant. Whitmore looked at Tyler as if betrayal were worse than misconduct. Marcus saw the entire structure in that one glance. Mercer had not acted alone. He had acted with the confidence of someone who believed the system would explain everything away afterward. Marcus turned to Major Torres. Resume the convoy under your command. The supplies go through first. Torres nodded. And you, sir? Marcus looked at Whitmore, Mercer, and the camera still recording. I am staying until the truth has a clear route to. 3 weeks later, the Ashford County hearing room was filled before sunrise. Reporters occupied the back row. Residents stood along the walls. Several drivers who had filed complaints against Sergeant Daniel Mercer sat together near the aisle, each carrying a story that had once been dismissed as confusion, poor memory, or officer discretion. Marcus Reed entered without his uniform. He wore a dark suit, a plain white shirt, and the same calm expression he had carried beside Route 17. His military identification rested inside a clear evidence sleeve on the table before him, the edge still marked by a thin stain from the gravel. Mercer sat across the room with an attorney. Sheriff Alan Whitmore sat several seats away, no longer speaking for the department, because the state investigation had placed him on administrative leave. The hearing began with the dashboard recording. The room listened as Mercer changed his reason for the stop, questioned valid documents, dismissed the emergency orders, and turned off the military radio after receiving confirmation from the convoy. No one interrupted. The silence that once protected him now forced every word to stand alone. Tyler Hayes testified next. His voice trembled at first, but it became steadier as he described the clean registration, the matching identification number, and the prior complaints buried inside the county system. I believed staying quiet kept the situation under control, he said. I understand now that my silence gave the wrong person control. The backup files confirmed 7 undocumented stops, altered summaries, and repeated failures to preserve recordings. 5 drivers were black. 2 others had been labeled suspicious without any recorded violation. Investigators also found that Whitmore had personally approved the closure for complaints without interviewing the drivers involved. Mercer was dismissed from the department. His state certification was placed under review. Whitmore resigned before the county board could vote on his removal, but the investigation into the altered records continued. Tyler received formal discipline for failing to intervene sooner, yet his testimony helped reopen every complaint. He accepted the consequence without argument. When Marcus was invited to speak, he placed the stained identification card in front of the board. This card proved my rank, he said. It should not have been the reason anyone decided I deserved respect. He looked toward the people whose complaints had once disappeared into closed files. A person should not need a convoy, a title, or nearly 200 witnesses to be treated fairly during a traffic stop. No one applauded. The moment was too heavy for celebration. Justice had arrived, but it had arrived late for people who had spent years being told that what happened to them did not count. Marcus left the building and returned to the same stretch of Route 17 that afternoon. The fog was gone. Sunlight rested across the pines, and traffic moved quietly through Ashford. He stopped near the place where his identification had fallen, then opened the side case of Ethan's Harley-Davidson. Inside was the faded photograph of two brothers standing beside the motorcycle in uniform. Marcus studied it for a moment before starting the engine. He had not stayed behind to destroy a man. He had stayed to expose a system that depended on people looking away. The hums had revealed his authority. The handcuffs had revealed their character. And the truth, once given a clear road, had rolled farther than any convoy ever could.